What's up, LEGO builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios. The time mock challenges are back. This video is kind of tough to plan out. Apparently I just struggle with the original trilogy themed videos. The reason this one was so tough is because I just don't think there are that many dark moments, period, from the first 3 Star Wars movies. But I took my time, did some serious thinking, and I came up with the 3 darkest moments from the original trilogy. I'm going to be recreating these scenes as LEGO Star Wars mocks, one in 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and 1 hour. If you think you already know at least one of the scenes I've picked, execute order 66 on that like button and let's get started. These scenes aren't in any particular order. What I did was decide on the 3 darkest moments, then figure out what time limit will best represent each scene. The 10-minute scene is pretty much always the most challenging because no matter how small the scene is, 10 minutes is usually barely enough time to build a decent mock. The first mock is Darth Vader revealing who he is to Luke underneath Cloud City. The main structure in this scene is some kind of round platform with a walkway that connects to some antenna. I'm going to have the whole build floating over a black snot frame with a stack of transparent 2x2s holding everything up. The main shape of the platform is round, so I'm going to turn some round quarter slopes upside down and stick some half pegs into them so that I can connect them to the underside of 4 round wedge blades. This was an easy way to build pretty much the entire shape of the platform and saved me a bunch of time. The walkway Luke crawls onto will jut out between the 2 rounded slopes, and on the far end of it I'm going to add stacks of 4x4 and 2x2 cylinders to represent whatever is supposed to be over there. I think they might be antenna. I think this is going to be one of the better 10-minute builds I've done in this series so far. Darth Vader, the main villain, revealing to Luke, the hero of this trilogy, that he is his father is a pretty dark and shocking moment, especially considering he had just spent a good while beating him up, but man, what a moment. This was such a cool twist and added a lot more complexity to the overall story. I'm very pleased with this mock. My main goal with these timed builds is to capture as many recognizable features and colors from the actual scene so that the mock looks as familiar and accurate to it as possible. For the 30-minute scene, I'm heading to Tatooine to recreate Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's barbecue death scene. I'm going to start with a nice black frame on top of which will sit a bunch of tan bricks and tile. The entrance to their home is down in the ground with steps leading up and out to the surface, so I'm raising up the whole mock a couple of bricks so that I can build stairs going down to the doorway. The doorway is going to be built out of some archway bricks and with a wall of black brick on one end to make it look like the hallway continues down further or maybe the door's open. I knew this mock would be a challenge because their home looks like a giant igloo with lots of round shapes and curves. 2 shapes that are not easy to build in LEGO, especially with my small collection of tan parts. So I'm going to take what round and curved pieces I have and experiment with them until I have something that looks roughly like an igloo. The terrain was pretty simple, just tile and slopes placed around to make the terrain look bumpy and uneven. I had these 4x4 curved bricks that ended up being a lifesaver for the igloo. I stacked them on top of each other with each one set back 1 stud from the previous one and then added a bunch of wedge plates on top to create rounded side walls and the dome on top. I noticed in the scene the ground underneath Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru was scorched, so I'm going to add a couple of patches of black plate to represent that. This might be the darkest scene of the original trilogy. Luke realizes his family is in danger, only to find everything scorched and smoking with the charred skeletons of his aunt and uncle laying on the ground just outside the door. I wish I had paid closer attention to the skeletons because it looks like one is laying on some boxes and not the ground. I'm genuinely surprised with how this mock turned out. The house isn't scaled correctly and looks pretty blocky, but I feel like immediately gives off Luke's homestead vibes when you look at it. The surrounding terrain looks pretty good as well. I added in a couple of skeleton minifigs on the black patches to represent his aunt and uncle. The final scene takes place at Jabba's palace or underneath it. It makes sense that at least one of these scenes would involve him. This one in particular is when he drops a chained Twi'lek dancer through a trap door into a pit to be eaten by a giant rancor, while a horde of Jabba's minions cheer from above. This will be the most technically complex mock so far, but not including the base. That is about as normal as it gets. Black frame with a row of plate making up the floor. The Rancor's pit is lined with rock walls, but they are not the smooth or angled rock walls I'm used to building. They are very lumpy and jumbled, almost like a pile of boulders. I'm going to try and build a wall out of random lumps of LEGO rock pieces and other LEGO pieces that look remotely like they could be a chunk of rock. I'm going to hold them in place with a series of headlight bricks and hinges to get everything to sit at the right angle. I got the idea for this technique from Cody and our Bricks, I hope I said that right, over on Instagram, who recreates scenes from the Star Wars movies in amazing detail. This turned out to be a frustrating process, as some of these rock wall sections are not connected to each other, get knocked around, and break. I'm not going to build the entire pit just because I don't know that I have the time or parts to do that, so I'm just going to do one curved wall. The Rancor is going to be tricky as well because A, I don't have Lego's molded Rancor fig to use, and B, I'm really bad at making beasts out of Lego. So I had the idea to build just the arms and position them in a way that looks like you're looking at the Moc from the Rancor's point of view. I'm also going to throw in some bones and random things that belong to its previous meals. I don't even need to explain why this is one of the darkest scenes. Jabba loves feeding things to giant monsters, however, this was the only time we see it actually work. As Luke kills the Rancor, Han escapes, and Boba Fett gets eaten by accident. Now this Moc may not look super complete or impressive, but you have to admit it's got some interesting techniques on display. The rock wall looks as I hoped it would, very lumpy, broken, and misshapen. The round rock pieces and the larger molded rock pieces really helped sell the look, but I wish I could have taken more time to cover up some of the gaps and holes in the wall. I have the Twi'lek dancer trying to climb up to the wall to safety as the Rancor closes in, and I threw in a morning star and a helmet because I like to think Jabba sometimes had gladiators thrown down in the Rancor pit to battle it. I do like the hovering Rancor arms as well. While super simple, I feel like they get the job done, and those massive claws are about to do some serious damage. And if you position yourself right between the two hands, you can kind of get a little bit of a Rancor perspective. It feels good to get back to these timed Moc challenges after all the larger challenge videos I've been doing of late. I have the format for this particular challenge down pretty well, and as a result, I was more focused and comfortable while building the Mocs, and it shows, as I'm pretty pleased with how they all turned out. I definitely want to do more of these over this next month, so let me know in the comments what the theme for the next one should be, as well as which of these Mocs was your favorite, and I will catch you all next time, but until then, happy building.